To this point in the course, we've been going over some of the skills of science, including how to do graphing, the scientific method, the engineering method. We've also talked about density. We've talked about the model of the atom. And then we've also talked about conversions. So those are some of the areas that we've covered to this point in the course. And these are some core skills of science that are going to be really helpful as we progress forward in the course. Now we're going to be getting to the meat of the course, and that is studying the Earth, studying space, figuring out how all of these things we've kind of wondered about, how they formed, what drives them, what powers our Earth, and what we need to be concerned about when it comes to ensuring that our Earth provides the protection, the warmth, and everything else, and clean air that we enjoy so much. So these are kind of some of the things that we're going to be looking at as we go into the course. And the way we're going to start that is today, as of today, we're going to start using our textbook. And some of you may not have known that we have a textbook. We do have a textbook, and I'll show you how we do those textbook assignments. So let me go through. And now you're going to see that most days we will have some reading assignment from the textbook. Okay, so you want to get into a pattern that you do the reading in the textbook, and usually the reading is not going to be more than 10 pages. You'll actually see today it's really only 3 pages, so it's relatively short. And sometimes it will be a little bit longer, but it really should never be more than 10 pages. Okay, so your assignment, and you'll see, I'll just click on this and you'll go over the assignment for today. What you're going to do is you'll go down here. This is just some background information for you at the top, but you'll go down here and there will be a PDF. Okay, the PDF is the actual textbook. Okay, now you might want a physical copy of the textbook that you can hold in your hands. And if you do, come and talk to me and I'll give you one. Not a problem. We have enough for everybody in the class who wants one. Now, the only reason I didn't check one out to everybody, or haven't yet, is because when I do that, some people take it home and they never touch it, and then they forget where it is, and they're responsible for the $60 or $70 or whatever it costs to replace it. So what I do is I have people check a textbook out if they want it, and if they don't want it, the good thing is I will post the PDF every time I have a reading assignment. Now, your biggest responsibility when it comes to these assignments is going to be to stay organized. If you are not organized, you're not going to be able to review very well, and you'll just have this mess of things in your Google Drive that will make no sense. So what I really recommend is to have a folder that has all of the PDFs that you download to read the textbook, and then you have a separate folder, or you could put this in the same folder if you want, that has all of your notes from those PDF pages. And I'm going to show you how you do this on the first assignment. So first of all, let's just look at the PDF that you'll be seeing. And I just want to go over how the book normally presents this. So first of all, it always starts off with this "can you explain it" sort of situation that you come upon. And the best way to think about this is kind of what I talked about on the first day when we had that introductory video. And that is, this is a little bit like walking up on a crime scene. Okay, you see a situation in front of you. You have no way of knowing everything about it. Okay, but you start to try to explain what might have happened. You start to try to piece the story together. And yes, it requires imagination. It requires exploring a whole bunch of different ideas. And as you gain more experience, then it becomes, easier and easier to explain what's going on. The great thing about science is you're never going to get bored because there are tons and tons of fascinating things to explore. So we're looking at this in this situation. This is this Mount Pinatubo in Philippines, and you see this volcano that's erupting. And there's a few things that it tells you about it. For one thing, it says that after this Mount Pinatubo earthquake that happened in 1991, the temperature dropped about a half a degree Celsius, which is pretty significant. That's around 1 degree Fahrenheit. And when you take that across the whole globe, that's a reasonable drop. That's something that could be noticeable. That could be the difference between some storm dropping rain or snow, essentially. So a significant drop in temperature. Okay, and that's kind of the evidence that we have going in. We've got a picture, we've got a little bit of information, and then we get this first question. It says, predict. Now, I know you might not be able to read this, but it says, predict, why do you think eruptions of volcanoes like I'll make it larger, Mount Pinatubo might have a cooling effect on the Earth? Okay, so you ask that question, you're like, wait a second, they never told me why. How am I supposed to know? Well, that's the point. You're supposed to predict. You're supposed to look at what's going on and see if you can come up with a decent explanation for why that might have happened. Is it going to be the right explanation? It may or may not be, and that's okay, especially at the start of the chapter. You don't need to have the right explanation. This is your creativity, your ideas. You might come up with something that's completely crazy, but sometimes crazy ideas sometimes turn out right. So it's okay if you come up with something crazy. Now, I don't want it to be just obnoxious. I would like it to be something that seems reasonable within the evidence that you see, as well as some of the principles that you've learned. But if you're working within those bounds, yeah, hey, if it's a little off the wall, I don't mind. And those can be, surprisingly, sometimes those turn out to be true. Okay, so now what you can do then is you go over to, now let me go back to show you where I have this. Beneath the PDF, I have a evidence notebook, is what I've called it. And just to interpret what these letters mean, when it says U2, L1, E1, it means Unit 2, Lesson 1, Exploration 1. Okay, so I click on this and it brings up this document here. And I strongly recommend that you don't just leave this in, it's going to open in your Google Drive. Don't just leave it in the general flow of files and folders. Instead, put it inside of a folder so it stays organized. So you've got your evidence notebook that you created on the second day, I think, of class. Go into that and create a folder for or you can start, just collecting these in that, and keep them organized. Keep them in an order that makes sense. I'll try to keep the titles consistent, so maybe it will automatically put a lot of those in the correct order. That'll be kind of the goal. So I'm looking at this, and the first question it says is, why do you think eruptions of volcanoes like Mount Pinatubo might have a cooling effect on the Earth's surface? So you type an answer in there, okay? Now, when you're doing these notes, this is kind of like guided notes that you're doing. I want you to make sure that you type a reasonable answer on each of these blanks that you have, or each of these blanks that you have come up, and you'll see that it types in a different color, so that helps to see, hey, you've done this part, and then the other stuff was given to you. And then you'll also see we have definitions, okay, down below. So when you come to a definition like right here, anything highlighted in yellow, you'll want to define that. Sometimes I'll ask you to define words that were not highlighted in yellow, and that's just words that I know are going to be important for you to know. So you might need to, read the context of the section or something like that to figure out the definition of that word if it's not highlighted in yellow. Or it's okay to also do some online research. Just make sure, if you do online research, I found this to be really important, make sure that the definition you're looking at is the scientific definition, because sometimes, like for example, one of the words that I ask you to define here is mantle. If you get a definition that says the mantle is something that a piece of wood that you put over the top of the fireplace that's shined up very pretty, you got to think, now wait a second here, that doesn't seem to be what we're really referring to when in Earth and space science we talk about the mantle of the Earth. Okay, a mantle over a fireplace and a mantle over an Earth are totally different things. So if you're going to do online research, you need to be careful that the definitions you're getting are scientific definitions, or at least relevant to what we're talking about, because there might be multiple meanings of a word, and we need to make sure that we understand the correct meaning. So that's going to be responsibility you have. I don't want to just see somebody just randomly copying whatever they find in Google. Okay, that's going to kind of miss the point there, of course. So, okay, you'll go through here. I do want you to put additional notes as well. So instead of just putting what I ask for, I want you to, as you're reading along, make notes on other things that you think might be important, maybe for an upcoming test or an upcoming lab. So I want to see some deep reading is kind of what this comes down to. And so, like I said, I'm going to try to manage the number of pages so you don't feel overwhelmed. But then whatever I assign, I want to see that you are going beyond just the basics and really trying to understand what's included in that. So once you finish these notes, you'll just go back to Canvas, of course, and upload it directly from your Google Docs or your Google Drive. and then you'll be good to go. So hopefully, I would expect on most reading assignments, they should take 30 minutes to an hour, hour maximum, I would say. But as you go through, hopefully it'll be a process that I think that discovery and exploration process can be kind of fun as you learn something new along the way, and then it'll be complementary to what we're doing in class. Let me know if you have any questions, and enjoy your first reading assignment. Thank you.